Welcome back to the program. It's still Daybreak Africa, and of course, today is on Wednesday. It's another Wednesday morning, and we're here with our guest segment. As you already know, that we have packages for you throughout the program. Now, today we're going to be talking about the impact of social liberty on family and society. You know, recently there have been a number of restrictions that have been now lifted. There are a lot of embargoes that were made, let's say, in the 17th, 18th century. Some of them started as a matter of religion. And recently, many societies, many countries, many nations, many cities, and many families are beginning to lift those embargoes. They're beginning to say, no, we're not going to do this. For example, we have corporal punishment and a lot of other things, transgenderism, homosexuality, even to the choice of what you can study. And we had a time where parents used to make decisions for the children and telling them what exactly they should do. Now, there's been this form of social liberty, not just between parents and children, but also between adults across the society. Joining us to talk about this morning is Faruq Ogunjimi, a public affairs analyst. Good morning, Faruq.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining us on the program. Thank you for having me. Okay, let's go straight to the conversation for today, and I'm going to start with the social changes, the social liberty that have come to play in our society today. What do you think might be the major factor that has propelled these changes? Because we know that how things used to be in the 17th century is not the same as 18th century, and is not the same as the 19th century, or even the 20th and the 21st century. Over time, people have changed for various reasons. The societies have changed. There were times that it was relative to continents, and there were times that it was relative to a country or even a tribe. But these days, there's this global change that is calling for, there's this thirst for liberty across many boards. We have people, let's say we have feminists now, we have some people even call themselves advocates for things that concern men, that concern the boy child, that concerns the girl child, and a lot of advocacy, clamoring for liberty from a lot of the social structure that we have known from when we were children. What would you say is the major cause for this demand for social liberty?
First, I would say that I enjoy the changes that is happening in Nigeria at the moment, because there's constitution and should be implementation of the constitution. Before we have the constitution, that state that everyone has the right to its liberty, freedom of speech, freedom of entitlement to do whatever they want to do. But what have come to play over time is that freedom, the true freedom, people are actually not having them. It's just mere in the constitution, and several of people's rights have been abused. Over time, we've had the period whereby female child are going to be raped on the street, and no one is going to do anything about it, or rather, the female child will be too shy to come out to actually defend herself or state to the public that, oh, I've been raped by a man, because of the patriarchic factor. So all these factors are, now we have people that are speaking up, that are educating people about these things, as these things are wrong. It's not supposed to be so. And again, the fact that they were doing it then doesn't mean it's good now. Like what you said, that like corporal punishment that has been taken away from children, that people are now complaining about, that they should stop beating children in school. They should stop beating our kids at home. I think it's a good development, because if you look at anywhere, whereby any place, anywhere where the kind of aggressive measure has been used on a child in the past, they mostly turn out to be aggressive in the future. Like, take a look at it. Most children in school, most times they are scared to go to school, because they feel that once they get to school, there is one English teacher or one mathematics teacher that is going to beat them at the end of the day for not knowing what they are teaching them, rather than the teachers finding out why they are not knowing what they are teaching them, or maybe they need to change their own method of teaching. They will put the blame on the children. And not all kids. Some kids have a problem. They have a mental problem, and they have this problem that deals with acquiring knowledge at the same pace with others in class. They might be beautiful, they might have another pattern that might make them understand that particular subject very well, like maybe through painting, maybe through role play, maybe through participatory form of method of learning. Maybe such a method could have helped such kid actually to develop his own interest or area where he would like to study. But our method over time have made it awkward for children then, and that's why you will see that today, if you have a lot of graduates in Nigeria coming out, oh, we are graduates, you realize that most of the graduates are educated illiterate, because at the end of the day, what they have studied in school, they don't even know it. They just come and become unemployable, because not that they don't have the certificate, but they have the certificate, but they don't have the skills, what it is to actually get an employment, because they've actually gone to school because of probably fear. Oh, my mom wants me to go to school. Oh, my teacher must said I must go to science class, and maybe the such child was interested in probably a course such as art, and they were forced to science. No, all this kind of dominatory dictatorship on the life of children, it has to stop if you want to build a good community. You can't build a community based on aggressiveness, based on subduing a child instead of making that child to be outspoken. Because all this form of method of beating a child, it might have worked on some children, but based on findings that have come out by the United Nations or by what they realize, that most of this kind of method, kind of approach of training children sometimes lead to they call it harassment anyway, but sometimes lead to aggression in the future. And now you come to ask the question, why are there so many criminals out there in Nigeria? Most times it might not be because of the economic situation of the country. Sometimes it can be the upbringing pattern of the country. If a child is at home where the only thing the father and the mother know is to beat the child, rather than know why the child is doing what he's doing and provide solution to it, they rather go with the aggressive they go in the aggressive way, beat the child, and the child just sees nothing making sense in doing things in a polite way rather than beating. And just believes that the child believes that everything he wants to get it by force. They get to such child is being beaten by his Intotech teacher. So an Intotech course that's not even relevant to him, beaten by a shorter than typewriter teacher that is not more even relevant in Nigeria. So if you look at all these things, they've not helped a child to actually grow. They've not, such a decision has not helped them. Rather, it might have worked on some people. I'm not saying it's a totally bad decision, but we've gone past that era. The world has gone technological. Now the children have access to the media. They know what freedom is. All these things, and they want to have a taste of the freedom. Total freedom is important to the child. You can control what they see on the media, but at the same time, you have to give them the liberty. Sit with them. Oh, my child, what kind of life do you want to live? Let's discuss about it. It's wrong, it's right. But in the moment where you're using force on children or not, then you realize you're wasting your time. Because at the end of the day, if you do that, they will still meet those people outside and deal with it. But if you create a kind of relationship with them, then you know what they are saying on the media. You know what kind of people they are saying on the media. I was saying recently where a parent was actually beating a child for saying the child wants to join, he's trying to join a cybercrime. And I was like, oh, maybe it's good. Maybe maybe it's good. I mean, the approach, but maybe it's bad because such a child might say, oh, it's because my mother caught me today, she won't catch me tomorrow, But in a place where you see this child down and you're like, this thing you're doing is cybercrime, then explain to him that this thing is not a good means of making income. It comes in a while, and when you're caught, you're going to regret it, and it's going to take away your life permanently. So let's discuss about it. What do you want to become in the future? Do you have interest in digital technology? Or should we enroll you into digital class? Or what do you want? How can we help you? You sit with such a kid down and tell him, oh, what you're doing is good or bad. Tell such kids, let them see reason why what they are venturing into is bad. Make their person like, oh, because of this, you're not going to meet this friends again, and I won't allow you to do that. Not that I'm taking away your liberty, but to some extent, I still have control over what is good for you and what is bad. Because when you're over 18, when you have your total freedom, you won't be like, oh, it's my mom, it's my dad's fault, that's why I'm like this. No, so you, it is, yeah.
You said something about corporal punishments, and I want to kind of take it from there, because I was speaking to someone recently, and the person made a postulation, although there is no evidence or facts or research to back it up, was just a postulation that he thinks that the absence of proper parenting and corporal punishment may have influenced or may have contributed to the kind of society that we have now. We'll take, for example, the United States of America. You know, the person said that there's a way that their parents trained them. Yeah. There was corporal punishment. You can't just make decisions on your own. You have to listen to what daddy and mommy is saying and all of that. There wasn't so much social liberty at the time. He said, but now they felt that, okay, our parents were too rigid with us. They were too strict with us. And then they started, they started having their own, their own manner of parenting, which introduced some of the social liberties that we have now. And he said he is ashamed at the kind of children that they've eventually raised, because they now have children that are demanding to get married at a certain age, that are demanding to have sex at a certain age, that are demanding to have access to adult content at an age where they should probably be focusing on school. They now have children that now have a role to play, or do I say a decision to make when it comes to their education and their way of life. They have children that can easily run to the police to say, oh, I want to have my parent arrested. We now have children. Let me bring it now back to Africa. We now have children in Africa that are able to say, oh, I don't want this, I don't want that. This is what I want to study, and you just have to listen to me. And gradually, I know Africa might not be as invested in this as some of the European countries or the Western countries, but whether we like it or not, some way, somehow, we are gradually accepting some of this culture. And research is showing a little or slowly that some way, somehow, this may have contributed to the eventual results that we have now. We have children now that they're saying, oh, I'm a boy, while they are born a girl, without any scientific backup or whatever. And like that, it's becoming, we're slowly drifting away from norms and culture. I think Ose has an addition to what I was saying.
Yes. Based on his response, Faruq, based on your response on, you know, just support for cancelling the corporal punishments, as that what you just said now, you know, there's these terms that they're used for it now. They call it gentle parenting, where they don't like indulge in beating or punishment. So I want to say, like, how do, like, you know, how do they find the balance in making sure that, you know, this gentle parenting or this, you know, cancellation of this corporal punishment does not like, you know, have a bad effect in society in terms of the kind of, you know, children that are being, you know, raised up right now?
Okay, thank you very much. We shouldn't miss two things together, and which is culture. Culture is the way of life of people. And now, different countries have their culture. The culture of Nigeria is different from the culture of USA. It's different from the culture of Saudi Arabia, the Arabian countries. It's different from the culture of China, Korea, etc. So if you look at all these cultures, the point is, when you are embracing natural imperialism, cultural imperialism rather, that's a culture of order, then you shouldn't lose your own culture. So the aspect is, what I'm trying to say, Yoruba culture is, when you see someone, you have to respect that person. They train you in a way to respect your elders, to prostrate when you see an elder. They call them omoluabis. Now, if you look at this culture, if you're embracing cultural imperialism, or you're not more introducing the corporal punishment, which is not the only form of punishment that we can embrace, if you're not embracing that, doesn't mean you should take away the culture. So you have to train your child about the culture of the people, about whatever you believe in, so that they can know the stand. Because right from the age when a child is born, till 18. Personally, 18 is when a child is adult universally. So I think if you're considering that, then a mother, parents, they have some control over the children to decide for them what they want to be and what they don't want to be. And if you're making the decision on the children, I personally feel when you're making the decision for the children, then you carry the child along. Now, what you call gentle parenting is like, oh, now gentle parenting is like pampering the children or so. The fact that you take away corporal punishment doesn't mean you're pampering your child. Doesn't mean there are no means of punishment that you can embrace for the child. So if a child is doing wrong and you call him or her to order, then you have to find a way of taking something that find a way of finding something that can actually put the child into proper correction without the use of violence. Because now, the world today, corporal punishment has been seen as a form of violence. Now, when we term it violence, it's not, the way it has been abused in some part of Africa, most especially Nigeria, is alarming. When you see some parents, they just take a child and they beat that child like that child stole. Then how do you expect the child to actually eat to whatever correction you're giving the child? That child will see violence as the only form of communication. So if that child gets outside, the only thing they understand is violence. Whereas maybe some people actually go ahead and use maybe they can use something else, maybe a cane. It might be a cane or anything, just once, like, oh, what you did is wrong. Then it's fine. But some people, you will see the fact that they beat their children to the point that the child is bleeding, and you understand what I'm saying. And all these things, they lead to violence in the life of the child. They subdue the child. They take away they make them they take away the I'm looking for this English. They make them less outspoken, and sometimes it can lead to depression in the life of the child, and you won't even know that such child is facing depression, and you will think, oh, how can a child be facing depression? So all these kind of things, you're taking away the beautiful life of the child at early age when you involve. And such parents that are involved in this kind of violence does not only stop at beating the child. The mother does not only stop at beating the child. The child goes to school, they still beat the child in the school. All these things are wrong. Now let's go back to the trans you're talking about. Now, the culture of the USA, their constitution, is discussing, their legislation is discussing about enabling children to have this free will to decide their gender. That's not so. Because a child at 3, 4, 5, being taught about sex, when we know there are two, now I think we don't know the number of gender we have anymore, but the biological gender we have is male and female that you're meant to be taught in school. And now when you're trying to train the children otherwise, when you're misleading them, thwarting their mental health, it's really alarming, and it's really worth discussing about, and not should be welcome to a country like Nigeria. Because if you look at it now, a child at 3, 4, 5 years old, who is making decision of her life, no, I think I'm a lady. No, it's wrong. If you look at Nigeria, when I was growing, I think we have some kids, when they give birth to them, and we're like, oh, this guy talks like a lady, oh, so he resembles her mother. And the guy actually likes using tie everything because he likes using wig, her mother's wig, likes using her mother's powder and things. Now, the parents should decide for such child that, oh, I think this child is a female. That doesn't state the fact that the child wanted to be a female. She might have just been too close to her mother, that she loves what her mother was doing then. But imagine when a child that made decisions for herself that, oh, I think I'm a female at 5 years old, tends to grow up at 18 and realize that he passed through some kind of surgery to become a female. And then he realized that, oh, I've made a mistake. I was too young. That actually becoming. You've taunted the girl. I don't know if I should call her a girl, but you've taunted the poor man. You've taken away the future of the poor man, and you've taken away the life of the poor man because you allow such a poor gentleman to actually make a wrong decision at such an age. So I don't have a problem if someone clocked 18 or 20 and decided to go and take a loan to have a surgery and change to whatever you want to change to. Is your problem. It's not my problem. Whatever you have to deal with it, you have to deal with it. But I respect your decision if that's what you want to take. But it depends on the country you have, because the culture too is important and the constitution of the country too is important. The country you are, if you go to the country, I don't know, Nigeria have kind of a bit, I don't know what their stand on it, because we have so many cross-dressers and people that have been going on to have a future and change their gender in Nigeria, and the country is not really talking about it. But if you go to a country like Saudi Arabia now, and you're saying you want to trans your body, then you know you're playing with death penalty. If you go to an African country like which I think when Museveni is there, if you go to a country like that now, you're proclaiming to be you want to change your body because you think you're male or female. You should know what you're going to pass through there, and you know you're going to face the constitution. So the constitution of the country is actually will determine what is right or wrong on that aspect. But culturally, it's wrong in a country like Nigeria. But if the constitution also says it's wrong, then the people shouldn't embrace it. But if the constitution supports it and people are embracing it, then it's left to them. Then they have to respect other people's opinions and not to force their will down on the people.
Thank you so much, Faruq. You've been very extensive with your responses, and our time is very much fast spent. However, in just like a minute or two, the culture of, do I say, then versus now, just as the topic says, which method would you say is more successful when it comes to adding societal values and promoting a society where everything is sane?
If you're saying the culture then or now, you know, when you're talking, are you talking, if you're talking in terms of their upbringing, then it will be difficult to actually state one, because
okay, in terms of societal liberty.
In terms of societal liberty, I think I will go with now. And
now. Wow. Okay, thank you so much, Faruq, for joining us.
Thank you for joining us today.
You. Yeah. Thank you so much. All right, viewers, that's how far we can go on this segment. I do believe, and you've learned one or two things from our guest all the way from the United Kingdom, Faruq Ogunjimi. We're going on a quick break now. When we return, Daybreak Africa continues. Do stay with us. We'll be right back.